And welcome everybody. Civilization Cycle live show Thursday nights, 10 p.m. to midnight. I got Ransom Godwin with me tonight. We're going to talk all things Comet Atlas. I'd sent him a couple black and whites that I peeled back and also been following a little shows on that because you know I love the comments. Way back all the way from Comet Ison back in my very first videos on YouTube. Going by Plasma Dave back in the day. But still, we're back to comets again. And peeled back some black and white ones, and then I couldn't get the resolution any different, so I sent them off to Ransom. We're going to show you those tonight. These are our own photos that we did with different resolution. Take a look at what the inner core looks like. And also, I'll let you read the notices here. They're saying it's a level 7, class 7 is what it is. Excuse me, not level. Class 7. So that's pretty much very close. The highest is class 9 to being something of that's not of origin from us. So when they're taking a different parameters of velocity and being able to control propulsion systems, variances and exiting of different things that whatever entities are in there, if they're breathing or, you know, like we on an airplane would need to, or if you're in a camper, eventually eject your unmentionables, that sort of thing, as well as exhaled gases. Like they're taking all these different considerations. So we'll see where that takes us tonight, but we've got some more of our own research to debut for you tonight. Also, they're going to try to come up with synthetic coffee. Anyway, thank you. Yeah, synthetic coffee with cockroach milk creamer. You know, we covered that in a few episodes before. It's not really cockroach milk. That's kind of a misnomer, but the cockroach, they come out with this, I guess it's the better part of it's a paste, crystal paste, but once mixed with water and boiled down, it turns into a full liquid, and they call it milk, quote unquote, at that point. Then they add the sugars, and they say it's 4 times more healthy than any types of protein milks we can get from any. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Goat milk and cockroach milk? I don't know. Mother's milk? You're telling me cockroach milk is more nutritious than actually milk from the mother's breasts? Okay, that's a stretch. That's a stretch. We've been told, you know, infant formula coming from a box is more healthy too. So anything is possible in the world. And it just seems something is on edge and everybody's picking up on it. I don't know the exact global consciousness ping on this. And that's what we wanted to discuss tonight too. So feel free to drop in some comments while we're talking, because we're trying to share ideas tonight, because there does seem to be, we've reached this precipice point now where the global consciousness is picking up on some massive change that seems to be disturbing everybody. It seems to be sending a wave of agitation and angst through the entire global populace. And they're responding in many ways, shapes, and forms, from revolutions in multiple countries. Ransom, appreciate you joining me tonight. And thank you for the images that you kindly put together, because I couldn't get the resolution off the black and whites any better than I could, and then you took it from there, and I definitely see some shapes in there. Now, just turned from red to green. Now they're saying cyanide that is turning the green this time. But remember, this is the furthest out a comet has ever been that had interacted with the sun, because you realize what we're seeing right now in the news is like this is of the latest. But when you go back almost a month, so far out that it shouldn't have been interacting with the sun, it started to. It's the furthest out known instance of a comet that had some sort of electromagnetic interaction with the sun. A 2025 survey found that over half of U.S. adults are concerned about how fast their skin is aging, and 40% fixate on random wrinkles or dark spots. If that sounds like you, you're not alone. More and more people are noticing visible changes in their skin earlier than expected. This is why I use the anti-aging collagen secret weapon. It provides my skin with 5 must-have types of collagen needed to reduce wrinkles. And since taking it, I've experienced smoother skin and more elasticity. Plus, it mixes smoothly with my morning coffee or tea. No taste, no clumps. Be sure to grab a bag of ageless multi-collagen now that it's 51% off only at healthwithadapt2030.com, and help take years off the clock. Plus, by ordering now, you're also guaranteed to get the free ebook titled The 14 Foods for Amazing Skin, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee and free shipping. Once again, that's healthwithadapt2030.com. click on that link in the description box below. And these are the black and whites that I pinged that were the latest of the images here. So I tried to scale it down, and I did some work with some photo editing software, and the best I could get at Ransom, if you could scroll back a couple on the black and whites there. Yeah, so that was the close-in image, and you can sort of see like a star formation. It looks like radial spokes coming out of there. And from that point, I tried to enlarge it and then, get a little bit zoomed in and see if I get a little bit finer resolution, unsharpen and doing all that kind of thing. But the best I could get it was that last one. So then I said, Ransom, I know you know how to do a lot of photo editing, video software editing. Can you help me? And this Ransom that we have come up with, you have, my friend.
Looks like an orb, man. That's what it looks like to me.
Make that one large screen and just get me and you out of the way to take a look at that.
Oh yeah, we could do that.
And do something like that. All right. So this is it. I would ask anybody out there, do you see anything inside this? What do you see in there? It's an ink blot test. You're in the psychological test room right now. Do we see anything in the ink blot?
I keep looking. I see a forehead and 2 eye sockets and a nose bridge there. My son said he saw a skull in it. But he was talking about this image actually, which is the the polar opposite there, the negative of the blue image. You can't really see much on it, but what's really cool are these ones that you sent me here that look like they do have, additional blobs or orbs behind it or near it, around it. I don't know how you.
Now this one here, I got this off Carrie Cassidy's show. She was with David Nino Rodriguez, and they had another person who was absolutely fascinating to listen to. I forgot his name, but I definitely want to look him up again. Carrie Cassidy over at Project Camelot. They were sharing this specific image, talking about this one, that apparently what you see around there, that's not Starfield in the background. Those are the orbs that are accompanying this thing as it moves along. And this is the scariest thing for our governments, these orbs. And that's why you've heard about orbs maybe dropping off. You got the impression that maybe they're on the inside and they're going to pop on if you were going to drop. The reason they're talking about the orbs is because this is what it is. These are following it or trajectorying around it. This is very similar to our solar system, though. Our solar system is not just a flat plane that kind of spins around and moves like this. It's actually the same orientation where our planets are spinning around the sun as we move through this thing in a corkscrew fashion. It's not like this dinner plate just moving around flatly through everything. It is a corkscrew fashion like this as the planets are circulating around.
Well,
even what we taught about basic, I guess, planetary geometry and orbits is wrong in context. Yeah, it is spinning in different types of ellipses for the orbits, but the way they orbit around the sun is completely different than we've been taught. They give you this flat plane view. Got to spin it this way and then tweak everything behind it gravitationally as it moves through. So that is very much a representation. What's interesting, that can you go back to that, Ransom, real quick there? So this is a representation of how our solar system actually spins as it moves through. So in this, I would see they understand how our solar system actually spins through space. And this would be a representation if you were to take this and mirror it over. Because a lot of these dates that this thing passes different planets, like on October 1st, what is it? Distant early warning from somebody who owed me a favor sent me this. October 1st, Day of Atonement, something comes. And then this will be going right over Mars at its closest approach on October 1st and 2nd. Now, we'll be closest to Earth on December 23rd and 24th. So you tell me 2 significant dates in our religions. And then we cross 2 planets on those same times. Now, there's a whole bunch of other religious dates that this thing passes significant points through the solar system.
This is a really cool object, no matter what it is. First of all, it's the first of its kind we've ever seen. So even if it turns out to be a completely natural body coming through our solar system, its composition, its behavior is unlike anything that we've documented before, in the way that it's not putting off the same gases. It's not, glowing in the same way that it would usually do. But not only that, a lot of people don't know that this is coming from the Sagittarius place in the sky, which is the same place we got the wow signal from. But not only that, our solar system itself is actually moving towards this object. So it's not only coming in I mean, I forgot the speed that they said it was coming in. It's like twice that of most comets, but we're also moving towards it in the same direction, our solar system. And you were just talking about, how we're spinning along through the galaxy. Well, we're headed towards the object that's coming at us. Now, a big question I have is this a single object, or are there going to be others in the same path? And if so, it seems like our solar system would be going and colliding with, not colliding like as far as a hit, but at least passing through the same space, waving hello on the way by. And it's really weird how it just lined up perfectly to get like a cinematic view of the solar system. So that's why it's got a lot of people, thinking that it might be artificial. I've been reading a lot about Loeb's thing. He has, a lot of different things he points out. The luminosity, it seems to be brighter than it should be. The fact that it's putting off nickel and cyanide and no iron is kind of bizarre to them, because the only way that we know how to get that pure kind of aluminum is through some kind of artificial means. And it reminds me a lot, if you're familiar with UFO lore a little bit, there's two different instances in where a witness saw some kind of plasma come out of what they said was a UFO and recovered an object. I'll look for it here in a minute. But those were like 90 something percent, like really super pure aluminum with just a little bit of nickel in it. And the weird part about that is if you were making some kind of anti-gravitic device, you could use these kinds of metals, because they don't really attract or resist to the other things. And we got to think about this too. Loeb is, mentioning that it has kind of a negative charge on it. So it's unlike other objects that may have a different charge. And this is kind of putting us in the electric universe realm where, um, they keep saying comet. The problem is, do you know of any single comet that they've ever discovered that they could verify that it was made out of ice or water? Not a single one. It's never happened.
None of them. They're always electric comets. That's the whole thing. They're always electric.
Right. And most likely they're, different compositions or alloys that we may not find here because we don't have the circumstances for it to be created. These may be chunks out of, giant stars. And, a lot of people discount that because usually you have the iron with the nickel. But if you're talking about like maybe a giant blue star or a giant red star, we have no idea like the size of those elements when they get blown out of that sun, either through shedding or supernovas or any of that stuff. But back on the concept of artificial design here. We had Greg Allison on last week, and he's one of many people that would point out that maybe extraterrestrials would probably be using anti-gravitic technology. And I'm thinking, well, that's possible, but then again, they may not have went that course in their technology, and it would make sense to build a giant probe, so that it could withstand travels through the universe. This may be something like, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, something sent out, never really intended on coming back, but just to continue to send data on its travels. And what better way to do that than send something slower than light speed? I mean, if you were going at, faster than light speed or interdimensionally or any of that thing, you're going to miss all the roses along the path, so to speak, and you would miss all that valuable data that you would get from sending an object at speeds that are equivalent to other objects in the universe. And we don't even know how old this thing is, or how, when did it start its journey. It could be very old, older than our universe. I mean, excuse me, our solar system. It could definitely be older than our planet and our star specifically, but even our galaxy, it could be older than that. We have no idea. And that's the main thing about it, is we just don't know anything about it, except for it doesn't fit into the norm of objects that we've seen so far.
Yeah. So you made a really, really good point about the composition of stars and how things even closer into the center of our Milky Way galaxy form with different size stars. Like, we only are familiar with our regional area here. You can't even see our sun. Our star over there is way up to the top left on that little. You can't even see it. It's literally the size of the tip of a pin. Now, something that can form out, like you said, a blob of a star, something coming out in elemental form, because you're talking about elemental nickel here. I mean, these things are so incredibly large. I mean, even just a fraction of that in its formation could actually have something of pure elemental form of metals that are, at least in our minds, because we're in such a thin, wispy formation of non-density out here compared to being closer in on a Milky Way, especially near the black hole where, gravitational densities are incredible. But look at the size of that. I mean, that's millions of times larger than our own sun. So
Right.
when you're talking about composition or formation of different forms, elementals, could be rock, could be in any types of atomic metals, it's going to be very different when you're closer gravitationally. And when you have the size of this thing, it is just mind-bogglingly large. You look at something like this, it really frames it out. You made the perfect point with that.
Explaining the anomalies, the anti-tail, you know, all of
Yeah, the
these.
antitail just means the tail's not behind it. It's facing toward the sun.
It's attractive.
In an ionized state, it shouldn't be doing that. The tail should be coming the other direction as the interaction happens. It shouldn't be going toward.
Well, it reminds me of a lot about like how you move a magnet around and you can see the little magnetic flakes, you know, turning towards the magnet when it's moving. And that's exactly what you would expect to see on an electromagnetic object flying through a solar system with all the different charges. It would pull and push towards whatever the opposite attraction is there. And then the turning green, nobody was expecting that. And like I said, there is a non-zero chance, meaning that there is a possibility that it'll smack into something right now as it's traveling through the asteroid belt, which, think about that. It has its own charges for all the rocks floating around, doing the pattern that they've been doing. So even if it didn't actually hit something, it may nudge things loose or change the trajectory or the positioning of other objects that are already in our solar system. So you know that's actually one of the biggest threats, obviously, to us here on the planet, is for any object from any destination, I mean, origin, having us as the destination. That's just not good for us, whether it comes from the inner solar system or, and it makes you wonder how many objects you would think infinitely that there are floating around in the galaxy right now, just crisscrossing paths, being shedded off of solar systems, black holes, and not only that, this puts into perspective kind of the Anunnaki story of a rogue planet from another solar system. Here we're seeing an object, a small object. It's about the size of one of the Martian moons, but it is an object that got shed off or thrown off of some other object out there in our galaxy or universe. And it just kind of, if you think about that, there are rogue planets flying around. So whenever these things, these stories don't sound so far-fetched that at one time it's possible that people on this planet saw something one of a kind, brand new, just like we're seeing today with this three-eye atlas here.
It's currently, we're on the other side of it because the way the sun is, whatever, we're not able to see it as such because well, it's being blinded by the sun for the best point when it gets to Mars. So they're able to see it now, but once it gets closest to Mars up that way, it's going to the trajectory as everything's moving, it's going to be blinded and blocked out by the sun apparently. We would be looking at this angle here, but as it comes out and starts dragging all of this debris with it electrically, it's coming this way, and our orbit, by the time we get out to it, it'll be here. So everything it's dragging is going to be much slower than itself. So as we spin around in our orbit and all that stuff's coming toward us that it dragged, and we're spinning around on our orbit directly into it, you just have to wonder, with those two coming together, if this could be one of the reasons that there's tremendous cometary debris fields and impacts at certain times through Earth's history and these cycles that come back again. So if this is on a 3,600-year orbit, as some have done the mathematics out that show it about a 3,600-year orbit on this one. Some say longer, it's going to go out millions of years and come back, but there's anywhere between 3,600 years and a million. So if that were a 3,600-year orbit, not talking about Nibiru or Wormwood or anything, I'm just saying something on this level that every 3,600 years we seem to get into some cataclysm and reset. How much space debris can this thing be dragging in from the belt out there is the question.
Yeah, or just knocking it loose. I mean,
Not going to lose, yeah, the wrong way, but we're coming around at it. Yeah, there you go. That's a great one. So
yeah,
yeah,
see,
watch how this thing goes through. It'll pass Mars on October 1st, which is the Day of Atonement. And it swings by, and okay, it's still dragging everything with it, is dragging it. And then the closest approach to Earth right there, December 23rd, 24th, 25th. Now, see, that stuff is going to be following the blue line and just spreading out as it comes. And then here we come into it. Boosh.
yeah, and actually, we might be blinded from it from Earth, but we have some high resolution cameras on some of our toys around Mars and on Mars. So it's very
You think they're
possible.
really going to show what it is? If it's truly some sort of if it's truly some sort of technology craft, do you believe that they're really going to show us? Or do AI is so good these days that they could fake the entire thing going by?
I believe that we will get a nice illustration, a computer generated picture, like we always get with everything, including the Earth.
Yeah, they've been showing us that same damn photo since the 1970s, haven't they?
Right. And then, this guy's bringing up points and everybody's knocking them now. But a few years ago, they weren't doing that on the first two objects. Whenever he said, hey, that passed through our atmosphere, I bet there's some little spherules out there that we could get from, I think it was Boris was the name of that one. But how to distinguish a population of interstellar rocks from a fleet of spacecraft. And, he goes into that. And then here's this other one. Bigger is better for the interstellar spacecraft. So this guy is locked in on this concept, whether it's this one or the next one or the last one. And he's making some great points that none of the other scientists in the field are, ever going to make. And then I wanted to get into this.
Did you see his interview where the interviewer was trying to tell him, well, NASA has already said it's not. And he's like, are you
Right.
kidding me? This is science. We're supposed to question every single thing until even when we come to a consensus, you're still allowed to question the consensus because it's science.
Right. Now
And,
you can't.
then he just blew the reporter away because she's like, well, NASA said it's just a comet.
Right. Well, as long as NASA says it, we
As long
should.
as NASA, you shouldn't dispute NASA at all. They're the leaders of everything. Never have your own
Yep,
opinion.
yep.
Never question. Like global warming. Are you kidding me? You can't question global warming. It's the science is settled.
Right.
Well, it's science, so I could question it because it's never settled. Is an atom still an atom? No, man. They found qubits and they found other things, subatomic particles. The only reason we ever found subatomic particles is because people question the science.
Right. And you notice the timing of this. This really reminds me of 2001 in a couple of ways. Not the comet, but just the chain of events that we've been having. So NASA just basically said they discovered life on Mars. Without saying it, they said it. When you showed me that photograph of people speculating, or I don't know where they got that, but it appears to show these little orbs behind it or traveling with it. It makes me think of Ashton Forbes and his plasma disappearing plane. Now, I'm not saying I agree that that's what happened. However, if you watch the video that he's obsessed with, saying it's real, and then you watch this, which is supposed to be a DOD, or excuse me, a Department of War real video, you see them hit this object with a missile. It's supposed to be an orb, and I'm guessing it's plasma. I mean, I don't know of anything else that could describe that, but watch when this missile hits it, it breaks apart into three additional pieces, and they form up a perfect triangle and start spinning, just like that video about the plane. Now, I'm not saying they're connected, but it does remind me of something like that. And then when it comes to these, objects that are coming through the solar system, um, are you going to believe the narrative? I mean, like I said, I could point out like which comet did they ever discover that was these big chunks of ice and water that supposedly explains why the Earth is covered in water because they said in Earth's early formation, we got bombarded with comets and asteroids delivering all this water to Earth. But they haven't even proved that. I mean, it's like one of the things that they accept you. They expect you to accept because they said so, and it's like an old paradigm from what I don't know 50s 60s that they were really putting that idea out that our solar system, got bombarded by all these objects. And I'm not denying that that happened. However, they have never come up with a single comet. And matter of fact, we just what was it? Forgot what year that was. We put the satellite on the asteroid, and you notice that every time we get a good look at one of these asteroids, it's the barbell shape, like two
Mhm.
objects, cold
At a
fused or
zeta
whatever.
pinch, that's where it's usually it seems like it's a zeta pinch, like, you look out stellar objects too, where they come in and they get that pinch point, they've done it with Coke bottles, they do it with cans, anything electromagnetically can get that Z pinch, right? So you described it perfectly, rocks out in space coming and electrically interacting with something else in the field can get that hourglass shape onto it,
Right.
formed from it.
And all these topics keep leading back to electromagnetism or electricity or plasma
Yeah.
or whatever you want to, frame uh, the energy there. And this comes out. NASA says Mars rover discovered potential biosignature last year. We didn't hear about it last year, but this also comes after papers that they've been releasing that are basically saying that humans are a chemical reaction, that we've been discovering all the amino acids and proteins necessary to start the one-celled organisms. And then we have these objects. Third one, this is 3i Atlas, and it's heading towards Mars. Misty surrounds the interstellar visitor. But we've kind of proven with this stuff that the seeds for life, so to speak, not panspermia directly, like little life forms are on it. However, in experiments, we've shown that tardigrades and other life forms can withstand the force of a meteor impact because they put them on the end of a bullet and shoot it into a target. They go there, they look with the electron microscope, and there they are. They're still alive. And then you got, these worms and stuff that are 46,000 years old. So it really shows you that life can sustain on objects and in environments that seem impossible or inhospitable, at least from our perspective. But you should see, you know, if I just went down Twitter with this as the
Oh, no way. That's a
search.
great okay, that's a great petroglyph there.
Right.
Yep, that
And everybody's thinking, oh, is this the Harbingers? Are they returning? Are the Anunnaki coming? All of the events that's been going on. We just turned to the Department of War. We've moved the Space Command. We have this, this object that's piquing everybody's interest. And then all of a sudden, the news stops about September 7th or September 8th.
Yeah, did you
And,
notice that? There's no
and
hardly any more news on this comet coming out from
yeah.
major agencies.
And I could put it on the latest, and unless somebody posted, but most of these are all old, and the ones that are not old, oh, there's somebody sharing
Hey,
us there.
notice thank you for posting that. Hey, by the way,
We golden.
buymeacoffee.com
All
forward
right.
slash civilization. Someone bought us 3 double espressos. Thank you so much.
But yeah, I've been surfing that, and I'm not getting any newer pictures than the ones we got, or better pictures, or updated information. It basically just shut off new information about September 8th, and then you roll around to the 10th, and we have a national drama going on. Literally attacking the idea of being able to express ideas. So it doesn't even matter what we're talking about. If we're talking about global warming, if I believe that that's an alien spaceship, I shouldn't be shut down or, violence given to me because someone else lives in their own universe, in their own multiverse. They have their own opinions, they have their own beliefs. When they look at the same thing I do, they might say a bunch of bad words and call people names, and I might think that's a good person, or vice versa. And we really are living in this weird polarized thing with all of these first time distractions for us in our era.